Stan, you've described to me the initial interview with early stage clients as premarital corporate intercourse. What do you, what do you mean by that? And when a company comes into your office for the first time, what do you want to know? Hey, this is retribution.
Les, is everyone here over 18? Well, after we negotiate the fee. The years I've been practicing in the corporate securities field, and the biggest problem I've seen is not really the money raising. That will happen to the deserving company. But as the gentleman on my point out, it's the red flags along the way that stop a company so many times down the road. And so easy to cure, and that's the biggest point of pushback I've gotten in my practice, all the years I've been practicing. Pushback. People just don't want to do it. It reminds me of raising children and they don't want to listen to you. And you're not asking for anything, just a few pennies, take care of business. Pushback. So let me give you an example. Clients walk into my office, let's say there's 3 people, whatever ages, men, women, we sit down and we're talking at the conference table. And I get into this dirty word called due diligence. Not due diligence about somebody else, due diligence about themselves. Do you know the partner sitting across the table? You know the person for 3 or 4 years, you're doing business together. You're going through their earnings and their affairs. Now you're in business together, you're corporate partners. Did you check them out? Did you check her out? Did you do a tax lien, judgment search, litigation search on the person? And I get a blind stare. Do we need to do that? Better do it, because you don't know who you're getting into bed with. And maybe it's too late already. And there's a pushback. Sometimes people don't want to know. And somewhere along the way, an investment banker is going to want to see your due diligence package. And the investment bankers that I deal with say, Stan, give me the loose leaf book. And in the loose leaf book is the judgment searches, is the investigations, is the lien searches of the principals of the company that you represent. They want to see a clean package. They don't want to start doing it when you're introducing the company. You push back, companies don't want to bother, or they don't want to spend the money to do it. And if they don't do it, they're not going anywhere. Because I can guarantee you somewhere along the way, something's going to turn up in a wood pile. And that's going to blow out a deal, whatever. So I say to a client, while I'm sitting around the table, anyone involved in a criminal proceeding? Everybody says no. One guy was a witness in a criminal trial. Not only was he a witness, he got to deal with the prosecutors. So he was an organizer. They made a deal with him. So in looking at the people you're dealing with, it's very important to get into the background of the people. This is not a various exploration, this is a necessary exploration. Because we can talk about bottom line, we can talk about profit margins, we can talk about a lot of things. That's very important. So after I get the pushback on that, and I'm not going to discuss the corporate vehicle, whether you're an LLC or a sub-S or a C corporation, because your accountants, your tax attorneys, or Michael, or Michael, or your debt, unless you can talk about it too.
Very exciting.
So I get into those types of areas. I want to know if anybody was in the brokerage industry. And if they were in the stock brokerage industry, then of course they have FINRA associations, and you get out a FINRA problem. Because if you have a FINRA problem, what's the nature of the problem? And that problem will follow you into crowdfunding, will follow you into Rate D, it will follow you into a lot of places like that. You've got to know whether your partner is in the industry, still in the industry, and what happened in the industry. Why did they leave the industry? I I represent the industry, I represent broker dealers, and I represent investment bankers. But you're a lay corporation, New York or Delaware corporation, you have 3 or 4 people starting up a company. They want to know the association of the partners. If your partner is still in the industry, the FINRA industry, sometimes you can have a problem raising money. Because the regulators will count certain formulas to count compensation against companies who are partners in the industry. Again, if your attorney or your investment banker doesn't ask you the questions, you tell them about it, because you should know about it.
My next question is for Christina. Christina, I'm sure you see a good many entrepreneurs, and because they have a smartphone, and they're on Facebook, think they know everything there is to know about social media and marketing. What do you ask at the initial interview?
When a client first comes to us, we do our due diligence, and we find out everything about their business, their competitors. We do a competitive analysis, so we want to learn more about the marketplace and what's currently going on there. Then we find out from them what they've done, if anything, to start creating some promotional aspect of their business. Sometimes they've already started doing some great things, but we kind of give them some additional ideas on top of that, and sometimes they haven't done anything yet. So before getting their business out there, it's all about putting your best foot forward. We want to make sure that their business is ready to be spotlighted, because sometimes people will come to us and then we'll start looking at their website, and maybe their website, for instance, is in really bad shape, or they don't have a website. And these days, your website is your virtual storefront, so to speak. So you have to make sure that you have a really solid website, because anything that we do on the PR and marketing end, for the most part, is going to lead people to your website to find out more information. So you want to have a really good-looking website. We had one client that was in healthcare that was leading-edge cutting technology, but when you went to their website, it was really, not pleasant to look at, shall we say. So there was a big disconnect there. You can't be a Neiman Marcus type company that's looking for that clientele, but then have a Walmart type website. There's just a huge disconnect there. So before you get yourself out there, you have to just make sure that, again, you're going to put your best foot forward. You have to have your elevator speech ready, which is your short pitch. You have to have your top key messages ready, and you have to be prepared to discuss all the issues surrounding your business, both positive and negative. When you go out there, a reporter is not going to necessarily just want to talk about the things that you want to talk about. They might ask you some hard-hitting questions that you have to be prepared for. Nobody wants to be surprised on the phone with a reporter hearing something that they weren't aware of for the first time. Also, your brochures, anything that you have, again, you want to have that really nice professional look and feel so that it helps with your credibility. And again, you want to know about your competition and what differentiates you from there.
Good deal, thanks. Scott, how many times have you heard from an entrepreneur, we have no competition and our idea is revolutionary? Okay? What steps do you take to get entrepreneurs on the right track when it comes to intellectual property?
Every entrepreneur thinks they have a brilliant idea.
Absolutely.
They come in and some are candidates, some aren't. We do, like everyone's mentioning, due diligence, but we sit down in an interview and ask 3 key questions. First, we want to know what's your it factor. What's going to make your business survive and succeed above everybody else's? So, as mentioned, the point of differentiation. We want to know the different directions you think you might go. Not where you're going to be tomorrow, but where you think you might want to go in 5 years. Because it's important to lay the seed day one. The gut-wrenching question that I always ask is, what have you done to date? Because particularly if you're looking for patent rights, the clock is draconian. And the biggest mistake we get is people come too late. There are certain things you can't fix. There's a rush, particularly among millennials, to blog, to talk about everything they're doing. And that's the #1 mistake that my entrepreneurs do. They launch their website, they market their product, and then they come to me. And for most of the world, they're all your patent rights right out the door. We also, the second question we ask them is, what do you have today, and what do you need? Whether it's suppliers, whether it's an engineer, whether it's a coder, whether it's a graphic designer, and how are you going to get them? Because each one of those players is going to have certain intellectual property rights that you don't just automatically get because you want them. Right? You have to figure out a way to make them part of the business or pay for them. It's a wonderful world now where everything is digital and online and it's easily accessible. but just as accessible doesn't make it publicly available. So particularly for the artistic, web-based companies, there's a temptation to take a lot. Because it's very easy to take records off the internet and put them in presentations. Those are all protected by people's copyrights. The third thing is the landscape. People come in, as you mentioned, and they think they know that they're the first people out there. And really what they're talking about is they haven't seen it on Amazon, so they think they're done. But that's not the way the IP world works. And even if you are the only person out there today, it's very easy with all the technology for the big players to come and catch up. So not just has no one done it yet, but why can't they do it tomorrow once they see the problem?
Thanks. Michael? Every entrepreneur wants to raise money, but we all know that most are not ready to face investors. What are the protocols and corporate governance items you use to guide entrepreneurs to prepare for setting up their companies correctly from the outset?
So that's an interesting question, and I think part of that question was already answered by
Well, he
Stanley
answered
said.
the question, but that's okay.
So I'll try and take a different tack on that a little bit. But you're meeting your potential. You're the issuer. You're the company. You're looking to raise capital, and you're meeting a potential investor for the first time. Obviously, the first thing, as you've already heard, is your due diligence materials. That's key. That's really key. Make sure that you can present the best. Not only the best face forward, but if there's warts, that they're up their front, because the last thing an investor wants to see the day before the closing is, oh, I forgot to tell you about pick your poison, like criminal conviction, insider trading, whatever it is. So it's not good. They don't want surprises are bad when it comes to that. So getting yourself prepared for that is key. Really dealing with, if you're the founder and you have a board already, or whether it's all insiders or an outside director, making sure that the people who are in the position to pull the trigger on the financing are in alignment on what they're trying to do. What are the use of proceeds? How much money? And how are they going to deploy that capital? Investors need to know that, and management or the board needs to have a compelling answer and the right answer for that investor. So making sure that the entrepreneur is the CEO and he or she is feels like they have the answers, but check that with your board. Make sure that the board says, yeah, this is a strategy we can support. So the board is there to maximize your value in the eyes of the investor and to protect you at the same time from risk. And making sure that everyone is on the same page and has a vision that an investor or investors can get behind is key.
Cool. Scott, when we mentor entrepreneurs, we often discuss the pros and cons of intellectual property. In some cases, the only reason to have IP is to be able to defend it. In your experience, when should a company investigate filing for patents or copyrights or other protections? And I think the audience would be interested in, on your perspective, on the value of IP as it relates to the investment into a company.
Sure. So I work both sides, for the entrepreneurs and for the investors, sometimes vetting companies. And candidly, in today's economy, IP is really the most valuable asset you're going to have for most of your companies. There are a lot of reasons companies can fail, but you're not going to succeed unless you have some type of IP position. So you really need to do it early. You need to do it day one. When we're looking on behalf of the investors to vetting, we look to see very carefully what you've done, what you filed where, what you've done at the patent office, what you've done in terms of your plan globally, just what your assets are, because although you think you may have a good picture of it, when I vet on the other side, I'm going to start searching for what everybody else has done and start looking at what they've registered, what they've filed for. Again, just to repeat the point, I think because particularly the patents, because those can get expensive. They can be the most expensive IP to protect. You do need to start that early. The investors will look at them, they will review them, they will, or pay somebody like me to review them, to figure out exactly what's there and get behind the smoke and mirrors.
That was short. Good. Christina, with every client being unique, when creating the buzz, can you give the audience some guidelines about the process of getting recognized? And do you participate in the design of the investor presentation that coincides with the overall look of the company on social media and the web?
Sure. I mean, it's all about branding. Even if you go outside and you look at our table in the hallway, you can see that everything is our branding colors. We have our B everywhere. Whenever our clients are out and about, we always tell them, make sure that your branding really shines through, because again, it's a differentiator. And nothing makes me happier than when somebody comes up to us and says, oh, bus creators, we see you guys everywhere. That's exactly what you're looking for. And everybody's so busy these days that you really need to reach out to people in numerous channels. They need to be reading the Westchester County Business Journal and read an article on you. They need to be looking on social media and see about you on there. And again, it depends on what type of business a client has. Social media is really huge now for referrals. Gone are the days that people look in, the yellow pages to find somebody when they're looking for a business referral. Everybody has a great network, and there's such a lack of trust out there these days that people really, look to referral sources. If I know Marcia and I trust her opinion on something, and I'm looking for someone to come and fix the roof on my house, I put out an email, I put out a post on my Facebook page, and my 500 contacts immediately respond back with, oh, Joe is great, Tommy's great, with contact information. And, having that trust of the person who referred it is really important. So that's where social media really comes into play for a lot of businesses. And for some companies, they want to reach more of the consumer side, so Facebook is important. For some of our clients, they want to be, reaching more businesses, so LinkedIn is important. And LinkedIn is excellent for helping to create contacts. You can look up any company and put in a keyword if you're looking for a certain contact within a company, and then they'll easily come up. And people are on LinkedIn because they want to connect. So it's a great channel for you to use to help start, building up your connections and your contacts. And then, a lot of companies, again, depending on who they're looking to reach, we look at their target audience and we look at where do they live, play, work, and we make sure that wherever those contacts are going to be, that our client is going to be front and center with them.
Let's just stay there for 1 second.
Sure.
Everybody, it used to be, not today so much, but when you started a business, first thing you did was get your phone installed, and then sit by that phone and wait for it to ring. Now it's a little bit different. You look for feedback on social media. And everybody wants to get an article in the Westchester Business Journal to let people know they're here. But if you don't know Marcia, how do you do that?
Call us.
Well, absolutely, and that's part of the question. That this has become a specialized industry. You have those contacts. They need to know that. How do they do that? What is the time? What is the cost? How exorbitant is it for an early stage company to get out there?
And that's one of the biggest problems that I see too, is that, to your point before about coming in early, a lot of clients that come to us haven't necessarily set aside a marketing and PR budget. So a lot of times they'll come to us and they'll, either come a little bit later on than we would have preferred, or they'll come to us and we'll ask them, well, what's their budget? And they say, I don't have one. And that's not a good answer. When you're spending all of this money to create your business, you need to make sure that you set aside a budget for marketing and advertising and PR, because again, we call it the circle of consideration. And if you're not in that circle of consideration, it's missed business opportunities for you. I always give the example, if somebody's planning a party, my daughter's making her communion. So when my daughter's making her communion, immediately in my head I think of 3 venues that I might be able to host the party at. So any businesses that are catering halls that are not in my mind at that time, it's a missed opportunity for them. So again, it's really important for you to be out there and to stay top of mind, because that's going to help with people, thinking about you, referring you when somebody's asking for your type of business. Whether you're a law firm, whether you're a catering hall, whether you have a product that could really be the next big thing to help people. Again, if nobody knows about it, they're not going to be able to purchase it. So getting out there early is really, really important. And then as far as the question about the media, we host media chats with reporters that we're friends with all the time. They're getting between 400 to 600 emails a day. So, you can imagine what their inbox is, and that's in between writing stories. So they're busier than ever before, so you have to really help the reporters and make their life easier too. And when you send them a pitch, you want it to be spot on. You want to make sure that you're reaching the right reporter. There's nothing worse than sending a pitch to a sports reporter when it's a healthcare story. So you have to make sure that not only are you targeting the right publication, but also that you're targeting the right reporter, and that your story is, you really thought about what you want to say to them. It has to be the basics: who, what, where, when, and why. And it has to be short and brief, and you want to make sure that you have a good photo to accompany the article. Artwork is really important. And working with a professional such as ourselves, again, we have those contacts and connections, and we're working with multiple clients. So when a reporter calls us about a story that they're doing, a lot of times they're calling us about one company, but 5 other of our clients, make sense for them as well, so we let them know.
So when an early stage company is doing their use of proceeds, we know that the IP attorneys and the corporate attorneys get the lion's share. So, what kind of a percentage in the use of proceeds should an early stage company allocate towards marketing and PR and buzz?
I would say, it depends again on how big the company is and what the budget that they have is, but I would say,
They don't have any money.
I would say, at least 5% you're looking at, because again, if you're out there and you have this great secret, we hear all the time, we're this hidden secret or we're this hidden gem. Well, what good is that? You don't want to be hidden, you want to be out there. You want people to know about it so that, they want to partner with you. And that's another thing too. Early on, it's really important to leverage your partnerships. If you have no credibility yet because you're a new startup, latch on to somebody that's a good partner of yours that already has a great following. Check that out on social media and make sure that they're posting about you too, because if they have 10,000 followers and you just started your, Facebook, Twitter page, they can help cross-promote you and really get you going.
Thanks. Michael, there are various types of corporate structures. Could you discuss some of the options and the differences? And also, each of the corporate entities should have a board of directors. Could you explain the role of the board and why these companies need to have a board of directors?
Sure, listen. So I guess the onus is on me to make this interesting, as I said earlier. So bear with me on that, on the first part at least. But 3 basic choices that we counsel our clients to consider in the for-profit, private company sphere. You have your basic C corporation, that's your Inc. or your Corp. You can be an SC Corp, which means you're taxed as a corporation, or an S Corp, which means you're taxed as a partnership. You check a box, have your accountant check a box when they file a special return with the IRS, and voila, if you comply with the requirements of an S Corp, you can be an S Corp and reduce your tax burden. The other option is an LLC, limited liability company, which is essentially a hybrid of the two. Key differences are taxation, as I just mentioned. LLCs are taxed typically as a partnership. S Corp is partnership. C Corp has a dual layer of taxation, both revenue into the company and then out to the employees or the investors if there's a distribution. One of the things that we like to do is think about where the company wants to go. If the company has a aggressive growth strategy, maybe they see themselves in 5 years, entertaining the notion of going public, we will steer them to be a C corporation because that's what they're going to need to be when they file for an IPO with the SEC. When it's companies, then that actually, although it's a little bit more expensive on the tax front, gives them a lot of flexibility to handle the influx of capital with their investors. C corporations, as opposed to an S corp, have the ability to take money from investors who are entities, offshore, non-US individuals, whereas an S corp doesn't have that option. A C corp can also provide preferred returns, preferred securities to an investor, give them a board seat perhaps, give them preferential liquidation, distribution rights, and dividend rights, and voting rights. S corp can't do that. So a lot of investors from early stage companies will also like to see their investments go into a C corp. The alternative is as an LLC. Typically, if that's a company that doesn't really see themselves going public, but wants some of the flexibility to address the capital raising needs, the hybrid approach of the LLC, they can do a lot of that preferred returns, distributions, special rights to investors, which the S corp doesn't provide for them, and so that would be a benefit, as well as the tax structure for an LLC. Let's pivot to the second question, which was
I forgot.
board of directors. You said board. That's what. Why do you need a board of directors? Okay. Really simply, the management needs the board. The board, and that applies for a corporation or an LLC, even though an LLC might call it a management committee, but between us, we'll call it a board. The board is there to oversee management, to hopefully make sure management doesn't screw up, or if they do screw up, how they're going to get out of it. So it's risk management, it's internal controls, it's evaluating the operations. Is this business, answering the question, does this business strategy work? The corollary to that is to maximize the value of the company. An investor, especially any VC, is going to be much more risk averse to making an investment decision in a company without a board, or especially without an independent board. So the ability to generate investment interest, to get better deals as a company on the investment transaction is going to be enhanced by having a genuine independent board with people who have competencies in the industry the company is, as well as financial expertise and an ability to actually stand up to management and challenge management where it needs to happen. Investors love that.
Great. Stan, you've got a PhD in just about, you've seen everything there is to see. In your experience during your illustrious career, what are some of the worst things you've seen that entrepreneurs have done, and what would you advise them to do to avoid some of those mistakes?
Don't talk to your brother-in-law. The biggest problem I see, once a month, is the brother-in-law problem. So we're at a cousin's club meeting, and the brother-in-law comes up to my client. He says, I heard you're forming up your company, and you're going to manufacture widgets, and you're going to need $2 million. Don't worry, sweetheart, I get it for you. So my friend's tennis club in New City, New York, we're going to put together $2 million, get it to you. What do you think? He does it. The attorneys put together the investment memorandum. 2-3 months later, brother-in-law comes in, check for $2 million. Everybody's happy, the company's rolling, and at the closing, the brother-in-law reminds my client that we had agreed on some type of small finder's fee for his efforts, his time and expenses. Hey, that's great. Everyone's happy. So what happens? A year from then, I get a call from some attorney who says, I got a problem. What's the problem, Mark? He said, this company paid a finder's fee to a gentleman who was a brother-in-law. Brother-in-law was not a registered broker-dealer. So there's a general rule of law, certain exceptions, but let's talk about the general rule of law. You don't pay finder's fee to anyone except a registered broker-dealer, period.
I have a question to Scott. Yeah. I want to ask you for advice. I just started a small company, but I don't have IP. But I know how to do that. I've been working with this technology for 13 years. So I wanted to apply for IND to get FDA approval so I can do phase 1 clinical trial. But I have several concepts related to the IP potentially. So how can I move forward?
So the FDA and the U.S. Patent Office are actually two totally separate organizations in Washington, and surprisingly, they don't talk very much. In the Patent Office, you protect inventions. So you can file one application, and you can protect a whole panoply of different inventions and permutations on it. You put lots of different ideas in the same patent application, and hopefully let them go through together, and the Patent Office is generally fairly generous that way. The FDA, on the other hand, looks at products that are going to market and how you can market them and what you can say about them, or if it's a device that's safe and it's effective. If you have a whole bunch of ideas and they haven't been disclosed yet, the first step you want to do is go to the Patent Office, even before you go to the FDA. Get your stake and stand at the Patent Office, The FDA is confidential until things get disclosed or you go to market or certain other steps happen, but you really want that first stake in the hand, first stake in the sand at the patent office, because that's going to give you the options for doing things later. Even if you have a large number of inventions, you can pick and choose which one you want to go through the patent office first, but you want the earliest date possible. There's a race to the patent office for most of the world, with very limited exceptions. You don't want to get there too late ever.
Thank you. Next question. Ma'am.
Scott again.
Scott, you're awful.
This situation may vary according to different products or industries, but sometimes there's stories of how, yes, they got the patent protection, but then some company is putting their product out there, and the protection of the patent is that the legal fees and the time and energy to exercise those protections are really very sizable. So in the real world, what can you address that situation?
Sure. So patent litigation is expensive. Unfortunately, in this country, we make it full-blown litigation. The rest of the world doesn't do that, but we make it very expensive, according to the rules set by Congress. If you're up against the big kid on the block and you're the sole inventor, you have a David and Goliath problem. Absolutely do. There are certain lawyers that will do it on contingency, provided that the outcome, of course, which one will cover is enough. It's just like medical say it was for a third or a half. In reality, that's more of a myth story. It happens, but not as often as you'd think. In general, the big companies like to respect other people's intellectual property, which is the flip side, why they don't take your ideas when you submit them. Very rarely when you submit an idea to a company and the company will look at it. You'll get a form letter that says, we don't take unsolicited ideas. Just the fact that they want to avoid the same fight that you do.
Hasn't that been changing a bit in more recent times?
The more recently formed companies are changing. The more traditional companies still do not like to take anybody's ideas from the side. The exceptions that they have is when you have a hard asset or an application, something that they can objectively license from you and pay that's already out in the public, so they're not accused of stealing it by learning the idea. This is again why we talk about licensing, which is a lot of small companies, they have great ideas, they're very high tech, they're industrial chemistry, but you just don't really have the ability to manufacture it like Home Depot would. But once you're out there, and these big companies monitor what happens at the patent office, so they know about you maybe before you think they know about you. There are people dedicated to figuring out what the new inventions are coming down the line. I've had a number of clients who unsolicitedly get contacted by other companies that want to buy their technology. It's actually a very nice way to be successful, so if you can sit back and just get a check, as opposed to going to the event every day, it's the business model my wife needs.
Question about Howard.
This question is not for Scott, but for any of the panelists. I'm Howard Reese with Healthy Practices, and since we're on the campus today of Westchester Medical College, I'd like to ask anybody on the panel. New York Medical College. How is a physician entrepreneur different from other entrepreneurs?
I think a physician entrepreneur, talking about running his own medical practice, he runs his own medical practice with other partners. If you're talking about him expanding his medical practice in a large area, like urgent medical care or something else like that, that we talked about inside of the reception room, then he has to deal with the licensing laws of the state of New York. And he has to deal with fee splitting. He has to deal with payments for rental and non-licensed people. It's a whole different world of medical management. But basically speaking, a physician in the state of New York cannot split fees with a non-licensed person. So they look at the fee structure of the operation. If that's what you're talking about. I'm not sure the correction of the question.
Actually, I was interested in a physician who's looking at maybe developing medical technology. I'm looking, because most doctors I know don't want to be doctors anymore. They'd rather run their own business and,
So you're looking at physicians who are going away from medicine and developing some sort of
or it
technology?
could be medical related, but they're going away from medical practice and looking at a.
We have a presenter.
Well, I would be interested specifically in Christina. What sort of challenges does something like that present in terms of PR or the restrictions or the things to be worried about if you're a physician marketing some sort of new technology?
We've worked with medical groups, we've worked with independent physician offices like plastic surgeons, we've worked with urgent care centers. A lot of the doctors that come to us say that they're kind of confused about marketing because they've never had to market before. They always said that, as long as I was a good doctor, people would come to us. But now there's so much more competition and they have to bring in so much more money because of all the expenses that they have that they too have to market. Same thing with law firms. We have law firms coming in saying that too. So we do a lot with professional services, and these are people that used to not have to market. That would be all through referral and word of mouth. We enjoy working with people like that because we get them out there as an expert source. So whenever anything's happening out there in the media, talking about any kind of new medical trend, we're always able to get them out there commenting on it. So, whether there's a horrible new virus that's out there, whether tick season's coming, anything like that, we can get them out there talking about it. And if it's a new product that they have that they're launching, it helps because they already have that credibility and that background of being in the medical field as opposed to somebody who's a business person that's now selling something that's medical. So I would say that that's the biggest, differentiation that we've been seeing is that they used to not really feel like they had to market, and now they feel like they do. And anytime there's a trend, for instance, urgent care centers, it's just like how frozen yogurt was. Frozen yogurt popped up everywhere. You saw one place and they started doing really well, and then there was a million frozen yogurt places in town. And it's kind of the same thing now that we're seeing with urgent care centers. It was a great idea, and there would be like one within a regional area, and now there'll be 3. I live up in Yorktown, and there's 3 right within my immediate area. So, it's really important to get out there very early, especially when you see a trend, because if you wait too long, you become one of many.
Just one follow-up point. If you're moving to medical devices, and we're seeing a lot of physicians and dentists do this for exactly the reason that you mentioned, that the medical profession doesn't pay as much on the burden, et cetera. Be very careful about who you're working for now and what they might own of the intellectual property you develop while you're there. And that goes for all employers, particularly for medical professionals who are partners or doing it at hospitals, or if you work at a university, they have particularly strict rules on what you can own while you're there and what you develop while you're on their property or with their tools. So you want to read your agreements very carefully and separate what you're doing on your own and what you're doing from the employer.
I would just add one other point, because it's a very fertile topic, is if you are an MD and you're looking to go into business as an entrepreneur, who are you working with? We've represented clients that have physicians who are looking to leave the practice, and they've never ran out of business in the same way that an entrepreneur would. And getting them together with business people who have the knowledge of that industry as well as the financial expertise to help them successfully enter into business is a huge benefit for them. So getting those people networked and hooked into people who can help them get that idea in a successful manner is really important.
Just a general question for the panel. With so much information available on the internet today, there's always the temptation to try to do things yourself, whether it's a consulting agreement, an investors agreement, or a shareholders agreement. Do you have any information or stories that you can share that, good or bad, that for the group today that may be tempted to use some of these services? Even patents I see advertised late at night, don't patent your device.
Larry, you talking about the internet?
Yes.
Proceed at your own risk. I've seen clients walk into my office with 15 pages cul-de-sac Google shareholders meeting. Shove my head and I say, it's like LegalZoom.com. You go to LegalZoom.com, you get a will, you have it executed under New York or New Jersey law, wherever you are, and good luck. And that's all I can say is good luck. You save yourself some legal fees, and I don't know what headaches are going to happen after somebody dies. And the answer is it's not a good idea. believe it or not, there's something a lawyer can tell you that might help you, whether it's a shareholders agreement or a will or a contract or something else. You might get lucky, you might get a good lawyer, you might get a good idea. So I would just stay away from it.
You mentioned it in terms of patents. Legals, and there are certain organizations that will automate the process for you. The tragedies that we've seen is people do that, they file provisional patent applications, which you may have heard of, and they think they're very secure, they think they're in a great position, and it turns out that they don't have any assets. What they've done is not worth anything because they didn't fully explain the scope of their invention, or they put enough information in the right way to get any patent rights. So now they've paid them fees, and not only do they have something weak, they have something that's having no value, and they started marketing it before they realized this, which then destroys the patent rights outright. It's a hard conversation to have with a really excited inventor, which comes in and you're saying, there's nothing I can do at this point, you know, you've made this mistake. So, Stanley's point, there are certain things that doing yourself, you know, where a little knowledge is a very dangerous thing in some of these areas.
And I would also ask Christina, what about doing it myself on the PR side?
Everybody thinks that they can write. You know, we've had companies that have come to us that have tried it on their own, and you know, they said I didn't get any coverage out of it, or I didn't, you know, really get anything out of it. And that's because again, they didn't really know how to write a proper pitch to a reporter. They didn't target it to the right people. So you know, it's like anything. You can't be knowledgeable in all areas of life and all areas of business. So you know, stick with what you're good at and bring in a great team to support you in the areas that you're not knowledgeable with. It'll save you time and headaches in the long run, and it'll, help ensure that you're not missing out on great opportunities.
I have a non-specific question to everybody, and one especially for Stanley. Guys, this is Naveed from One Gotham. We do data analytics for Stanley. You've mentioned Reg D, Reg FD, and crowdfunding, so do you have any thoughts on Title III of the Jobs Act, equity crowdfunding? You knew it was going to happen. Come on.
I'm not a fan of the crowdfunding idea, the new thing that has been put in, which allows you to crowdfund, requires the presence of a broker-dealer or a portal within the broker-dealer, and the broker-dealer clients that I know of haven't done anything and will not do anything. So I have other recommendations for a client who comes into my office. That's where we're going with this. Yes. It's a Reg D, 506D, where you can generally solicit, and you must verify that you're dealing with an accredited investor. Just one more step. Verify you're dealing with an accredited investor. And the private placement book has to be top-notch. A lot of pages, don't leave out anything. Put it in there. You go to accredited investors, you can generally solicit, and when the accredited investor comes back and says they make so much income and they have so much net worth, you have to jump on the process of verifying the statement of accreditation. That allows you to generally solicit. So people who come into the office and talk about crowdfunding, they really talk about general solicitation. And that's what I'm talking about. That's the safest way. If somewhere down the road it's going to blow up. When the crowdfunding deal, it's got to blow up. It's got to be forced. Somewhere. It'll be bad.
My name is Hugh Schwartz. We talked a lot about financial investors today. Could the panel talk about strategic investors?
How do you mean strategic investment?
In what way?
Companies that are related to the technology that you may have and getting potentially license arrangements and things like that early on. I've actually had a company where I raised significant capital doing that.
Anybody want to tackle?
So, I mean, those are fantastic opportunities for a lot of startup companies, especially if they have a solid IP portfolio. A strategic investor who is also going to use some kind of, whether it's a licensing arrangement or as a kind of OEM where they're actually doing original equipment manufacturing, are fantastic sources for both capital as well as building, a revenue stream for companies. And, if there's something that requires a lot of due diligence, on your counterparty. Are they going to be able to perform the way you want them to perform? And also, what are they asking for? Does that strategic partner want board seats? Very likely they might. Do they want some kind of preferred equity? Very likely they might. Those might be fantastic trade-offs for a startup company to A, get the capital, and B, to develop a healthy revenue stream. It's, they're very those are also IP-intensive transactions as well as securities-intensive transactions. So.
Yeah, I confess, like I said, I'm not seeing that much of it happening right now. I'm seeing a lot more, to the previous question, a lot more new companies that are part of the coming to market come in our door, and particularly the millennials are doing this exponentially faster than my generation did. So there's a lot of buzz going on there, but I'm not seeing it change.
We got the buzz in there.
I'm always thinking about it. You said do it everywhere. So we're seeing a lot more companies, a lot more happening. We're seeing a lot more private money starting to fund these companies. It's the friends and family for a lot of it. It's the funding yourself. It's what's happening with a lot of these companies, because to your point, money is still hard to get from the big banks.
We've got time for one or two more.
Got a question here.
I'm Scott Peter Hall from Warwick Info. Do you happen to know if the proposed and controversial Pacific Trade Agreement is favorable or unfavorable to those intellectual property holders in the U.S. who want to expand the boundaries of their business?
Yes, I'm not aware of it actually affecting what's going to happen to our intellectual property rights. That the rules are all there already for protecting the rights. It's really on the enforcement level where these countries are going to do it, and I thought a lot of it is kind of in paper. It's fairly well known which countries in the Pacific Rim are valuable IP countries and which ones are not. So part of the size and part of it is also the regime that's in control right now. You're better off focusing on Australia, Japan, South Korea, because they really respect intellectual property rights. China's the interesting one. It's huge. You're not really getting a lot. At the same time, investors really like to see you trying to capture the Chinese market. It's a gamble. It's one of those dollars that can go either way.
Last question.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mike Zerilli. I'm a professor at Mercy College School of Business, and this is a great forum. I just had a question. A lot of my students seem to get discouraged with a lot of these issues that you've raised with, expensive legal fees, things of that nature. Is there any resources that are in the area that would assist on a pro bono basis or maybe an equity share of what the idea may be? Is there any free pro bono work that you folks do for young budding entrepreneurs?
What happened to mom and dad?
They ran out of money 10 years ago after I graduated.
There are resources.
Let me respond to that for a minute. I went to a couple of meetings with West Norman, and I saw some young company presentations there. I'll just tell you my experience personally, what happens is you can convey it to the students. And interesting presentations were made. People were very serious, and I invited them up to my office. Respond to what you said. And some great ideas. A lot of the ladies are saying that. I would make such suggestions as you have minimal income. Are you paying taxes? You have an accountant? You have insurance? They have some type of business going. Business. That's sort of our first step. Entrepreneurs who have great business ideas, good business ideas, but we're taking the next step. So to answer your question, there is pro bono corporate work out there. It's out there, not only with my firm, but other firms. It's out there. It's up to the students to take the next step and follow up the advice. You don't have to, it's going to pay. I see a drop off. I've done it a couple of times, and I was really disappointed. I'm telling you flat out. You know, I put time in, and my firm put time in, students disappeared on us. Didn't know what I'm saying. So, I would convey to you that it is out there. There is pro bono work. Some of it was recommended through last year. People have had great presentations, and so tell the students to follow it up. If they follow it up, make sure they're sincere in what they're doing, and not just spinning wheels.
The USPTO has a list of law school pilot programs for IP assistance for this type. If you go to uspto.gov, recommend searching in there, they can point you to some IP specific. There's some criteria you need to meet to qualify for the pro bono services, but that's one resource we can start finding places.
You know, as a PR and marketing firm, we do pro bono work, but it tends to be for more nonprofit type organizations. But we do offer complimentary consultations. You know, as a small business owner myself and as an entrepreneur, I love talking to other people that are starting a business, and I always think it's really important to give back as well. You know, when I started my firm, I had a lot of people that helped out with, you know, brainstorming for names and the logo and everything else, and I think that it's really important to always give back and help one another with that.
Best book I ever read on business, startup business, best book in the world. The autobiography of the Wright brothers, like the first airplane. Get the book, read the book, they'll tell you how to start a company. They had a bicycle shop. They made an airline. And how they did it step by step, and how they dealt with the proposed investment capital, and how they handled the Wright brothers 150 years ago. Great book.
I'd like to thank our panel. You did a great job. Thank you very much.